Floor several times over the last year to warn the looming threat about Islam infiltrating the United States of America. You know, I know there are people that sometimes roll their eyes when I talk about this, but I express serious concerns about what Islam teaches and how it's incompatible with our Judeo-Christian values. This is why I say that Islam is not a religion, it's a death cult. Don't believe me? Just look at the report that came out recently in the United Kingdom. This report, which I have a picture of behind me, made international news, the Rape Gang Inquiry Report. This report, which I have a picture, this isn't a flimsy report. It was introduced into Parliament by Rupert Lowe, who had a successful career in finance before running for Parliament in 2024. It also co-sponsored by 5 other members of the UK Parliament. The explosive report says that Muslim rape gangs are operating in over 40% of the United Kingdom. The report details how white British girls are being trafficked and exploited by Muslim men across the United Kingdom. The report claims that there have been at least 250,000 victims who have been trafficked by these third world Muslim immigrants. You know, the report describes a consistent pattern for the Muslim rape gangs. Girls as young as 11 were groomed with gifts, alcohol, and drugs. They were picked up from schools, from care homes, and subjected to gang rape, trafficking, torture, forced Islamic conversion, and lifetime trauma. These are some of the worst things that you can possibly imagine and really make you sick at your stomach. But it's real, and it's happening to hundreds of thousands of young women across Europe. The report states that roughly 87% of those convicted in the child sexual exploitation cases bore distinctive Muslim names. Surprise, surprise. That's because these heinous acts are acceptable and even encouraged under the teaching of Islam. Islam teaches that Muslims are superior to non-believers and enables Muslim men to treat non-Muslim girls as property available for sexual abuse. The doctrine of Muslim superiority is drawn from documents written by Muhammad, which clearly state that Muslims are superior and have a duty to correct non-believers. For example, in one part of the Quran, it says that Muslims are the best of people in humanity as long as they maintain faith in Allah. At the same time, Muslims are taught to be hostile towards non-Muslims. In addition, Muhammad taught his followers that men are superior to women. Men can marry women without consent as young as 6 years old, and men can sexually abuse and rape non-Muslim women. It's their right, they think. Where is the outrage from the so-called feminist groups on this issue? They're nowhere to be found, unfortunately. The report goes on to say that there was a deliberate failure in the United Kingdom to protect victims or to stop this from happening. Police discouraged reporting, destroyed evidence, and sometimes even shielded the evil men who were doing this to young women. The National Health Service discharged victims without making sure that they had a safe place to go home to. Schools included victims rather than protecting them. Taxi license authorities renewed permits for drivers without bothering to check if they were involved in any of the trafficking of victims. The major political parties, along with the UK government, willingly turned a blind eye to the blatant sex trafficking happening right under their noses, all in the name of being politically correct. Let me be clear about this. By refusing to address Islamic sex trafficking of hundreds of thousands of innocent girls, the UK government enabled these sick criminals. Folks, Europe is gone. Just go over there and visit. They've fallen victim to mass migration, which is wiping out the culture, identity, security, and foundation of their countries. Did you know that the #1 most popular name of baby boys born in the United Kingdom now is Mohammed? And it's been that way for 3 years. You'd think it would be Charles after the king, William after the next in line of the throne. No, it's not. The millions of Muslims who have moved to the UK are having babies, and they're naming them after the most popular figure, which now is in Europe, which is Mohammed. This is a takeover, a hostile takeover. And I've said this many times, Europeans have the right to fight back in the streets to take their countries. They got to fight back. We saw an example this last week in Scotland. A Scottish man took matters into his own hands when he reached a breaking point. He knew his government sold him out. There was no one to protect him or his family from violence from these third world Muslim migrants. It wasn't there. There was no protection. So to be clear, I'm not advocating for violence, but this will soon be the reality in every European country if they don't start sending foreigners back to their home countries as soon as they possibly can, ASAP. When a government imports millions of third world Muslims who refuse to assimilate, and actively they want to destroy any semblance of the Western civilization, people are going to start taking matters into their own hands. That's what usually happens. You know, I wish I could say that the United States is immune to such dangers, but sadly, what's happening in Europe is a foreshadowing of what's to come here in our own backyard if we're not careful. Under the Obama and Biden administration, third world Muslims flooded America. American cities like Minneapolis, Dearborn, Michigan, and parts of Virginia with one goal in mind. One goal: to radically change the ethnic, religious, and political makeup of our country, the United States of America. That's their plan. They're doing it in Europe, now they're coming here. Thanks to Barack Obama and Joe Biden, the enemy, folks, is now inside the gates. You'd have to be stupid to think that what's happening in Europe couldn't happen here. Oh, it can't happen in the United States. It's happening as we speak. The same cult ideology that empowered human trafficking of white women in the United Kingdom is alive and well here in the United States of America. In the 1980s, the Muslim Brotherhood created a blueprint known as the Project, outlining a long-term plan to establish Islamic dominance worldwide by infiltrating Western institutions. That is their plan. The project explicitly instructs Muslims to create parallel societies within their host countries and to reject all assimilation into Western culture. Since 1986, Herndon, Virginia, not too far from here, has been the home to the International Institute of Islamic Thought. Think about that, just down the road. This institute was established with the sole purpose of eliminating Western influence in every field of human knowledge. We're talking science, we're talking history, psychology, and politics. Then they would rebuild it. They're changing it from an Islamic viewpoint. It's not our viewpoint, it's not our history. Simply put, they're taking advantage of our laws and ultimately destroying our country. In short, the project outlines a long-term plan to establish Islamic dominance worldwide by infiltrating and eventually take control of the nation that they're in. This document is operational, and it has a manual that has guided Muslim Brotherhood networks for several decades. It isn't just getting here, it's been around a long time. You're seeing parts of their plan play out today in several states like Texas, Minnesota, New Jersey, and New York. Even my state of Alabama is becoming a focal point of the Islamic network's goal to destroy Christianity and to eliminate Western society. The Rare Foundation recently uncovered some disturbing facts about the Birmingham Islamic Society in my state. This so-called Islamic society admits to being 100% rooted in Sharia law. It's got ties to North American Islamic Trust, which is linked to the Muslim Brotherhood. Rare Foundation's research also claims that Birmingham's Islamic Society has employed imams with direct ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. The mosque constitution reveals that every aspect of the mosque operations, memberships, finances, and even personal affairs of its members are subject to Sharia law. The Birmingham Islamic Society's constitution declares Sharia to be the supreme authority over the entire organization. To them, Sharia law has and overrules all of our federal laws, state and local. I know the state of Alabama has passed a law to prohibit state courts from enforcing or considering any foreign, international, or religious law if it violates the U.S. or Alabama Constitution. I trust the Alabama courts will look into this as soon as possible in Birmingham. I've talked many times about how Sharia law is fundamentally incompatible with our Constitution and our society. It has no place in the United States. We're living in a dangerous time where people are afraid to say the truth because they don't want to be canceled or talked about. Bad things start to happen when good people sit idly by and do nothing to address the problems that are plaguing our society today. We can't stay silent. If we do that, we're no better than the leaders of the UK who sat on their hands while 250,000 young girls were raped and trafficked. 250,000. What's wrong with these people? Raped and trafficked just over the last few years. For too long, people have tiptoed around the issue, afraid to hurt somebody's dang feelings or make somebody uncomfortable. But the time for being politically correct, it better be over. The truth is that radical Islam extremists want every single freedom-loving American to convert to Islam or be killed by the sword. That's what they study and believe. Thanks to President Trump, our borders are secure and we're stopping mass migration and turning away people who want to hurt our country. And we've got them here already. This action is saving our country right now, but it only takes the next Democrat communist president to reopen the floodgates to mass immigration. The disease of Islam has been allowed to fester and spread in our country for a long time. The mullahs are just waiting until they're in the majority to take our country and force Sharia law on everybody that lives in the United States of America. Folks, it's coming. So the question is, will we continue this path and end up like the UK and the rest of the European countries, or will we say enough is enough and refuse to give up our country to the enemy? I was glad to see President Trump officially designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. But that's not quite enough. I'm calling on President Trump to ban Muslim Brotherhood from this country. They don't need to be here. They're our enemies. They're inside the gates. We also need to ban Sharia law on a federal level, not just state levels. This hateful, murderous ideology has no place in our country, and it is growing, and we're not saying anything about it. It doesn't need to be here now. It doesn't need to be here ever. We better wake up. Mr. President, I yield the floor.